So I've been watching a lot of paranormal videos and compilations lately, and the majority of them, if there's not clearly something creepy there, then the way it's being filmed and perceived, and certainly the way the audience is viewing it, is creepy. It's a lot of the stuff seems to lean towards the dark side of things, and that is not at all what the astral world is like. That is not at all what the world after death is like. It's not a creepy, dark place. That is part of it. I mean, that exists within it. There is those realms. There are those realms. There are those strata of vibration. So, if you're getting your experience of the realms after death, and again, I could just call this the fourth dimension or the astral. This isn't the only place you can go after death, but this is generally where humans go, and it's generally where humans have gone in all past historical incarnations, because that was as high as they could get, unless we're going way back to times like Atlantis and stuff. Then people would be going to the fifth because that was a fourth dimensional civilization back then. So to refresh, we are eternal souls. We are eternal units of consciousness, if you want to think of it like that, which is all part of one infinite intelligence again. So once that unit of consciousness has chosen to create forms or experience forms or incarnate into forms, however you want to see it, those forms, the period of time that one will inhabit that form is finite. One will only choose to play with a certain form and experience and mode of experience and storyline for a certain time. Just like you would only go to a certain movie once, or maybe twice, but you're not going to watch the same movie over and over and over forever. No, you want to watch new movies. So the same way, you're going to have each incarnation be finite by choice. That is not an imposition upon us. Death is not thrust upon us. Like it doesn't chase us down like a conqueror, a murderer seeking to get to off us. No, death is a grace. Death is a reset mechanism. It is for us to go to the next story, to go to the next incarnation. And when you look at it, it's not so much the case, when looking at a fourth dimensional or fifth dimensional civilization, but even they choose finite body incarnations. True enough, a fifth dimensional being or civilization having a body, it will just simply choose to leave the body at a certain time or evolve the body into something new. It's not like, oh, I'm gonna die next week, or we got sick and died. No, that's not. One just leaves the body by choice, But in the lower densities, where we're playing with the illusion that we don't have control over our destiny and that we're not choosing, these storylines. So in this realm, we're playing with, the concept of not having any control, of being powerlessness, or being powerless, and having limitations and lack and fear and all this stuff. Then the death date is truly a grace, because it is to save you from a life of fear or pain or stagnation, or it is to say that, not always, of course, sometimes the death is much more graceful and beautiful. It just depends on the life and the circumstances and what one is looking to achieve. But for those lives where the ego, through its own ignorance and interaction with the environment, goes far astray, goes far afield, into realms of, anger, hatred, fear, all this stuff, addiction, then the death is clearly a grace. It is to reset one and bring one back to one's higher dimensional self, so that they can start over and learn whatever lessons they need to from that particular life. But, to go back to the fact that most people watching, most people that are recording paranormal activity, or perhaps even experiencing it, I don't think most people experiencing paranormal activity are necessarily experiencing dark paranormal activity. I think it's just when we look at paranormal shows or stories, when it's explained in that way and in that context, we get more of that, because when someone has a more beautiful, more spiritual, more graceful, loving experience, generally one will attribute it to God or whatever religion they belong to, or it'll be explained in a different way. It won't be explained like a ghostly, chilling encounter or a paranormal encounter. It can be, but that doesn't get grouped so much into that, And also, like I said, or I was going to say, a part of the reason for all of this is that people are going to experience the astral world and their multidimensional nature. Generally, whatever comes through from your other multidimensional sensory perception, because that's how one is perceiving these things, unless the fourth dimensional entity is really trying to come through, then it may not be so much that, but still, like, they can move themselves further into third density is what I mean, so that you don't need your extra dimensional perception quite as much to perceive them. You're still going to have some, probably, but or you'll only be able to see third dimensional effects, like a poltergeist where it moves things, but still, mainly what gauges your ability to see these things and what you see is your vibration, and is your spiritual understanding and openness and receptivity. So that's the reason a lot of people are getting kind of, chilling encounter. And again, some of these encounters aren't actually chilling. It's just the perception of the individual or the audience, it's just the perception of how they're seeing it. So anytime you see someone that's not supposed to be there, or you didn't expect, or you don't understand, it could be perceived as chilling, or scary. But that doesn't mean that is in any way the intent of the entity. And often these beings aren't even aware of you, or they're aware of you in the same way you're aware of them. They don't really know where you came from or why. It really depends what level you're tapping into. And see, so again, that's what needs to be stressed, is the vibration of the individual. And if we look at Earth, at third density Earth, unfortunately, there's a lot of dark vibrations out there. There's people all over the planet right now in violence, killing each other, killing people, performing all manner of depraved activity, just so there's people just terrified all over the planet. So, they're going to tap in to the lower astral planes, and the lower astral planes aren't, the best place to be. And some of them are downright terrible, but no one forces anybody to be there. It's like, for anyone who's well off, well adjusted, certainly in the more modern countries, but perhaps this goes anywhere, and they look at someone like me who when I was younger, I just kept getting in trouble. I just kept going to jail. I just kept having problems. And for some people, looking at the outside, they may have been like, if you're intelligent and you did have opportunities, why do you keep making these choices? And they simply wouldn't understand my perception at the time. or my ability to make choices and decisions for my own well-being at the time, because of my belief system and my trauma and my vibration and my perceptions was all very low, and it appeared to me that I didn't have many choices. Okay, so in the same way, like, why does someone keep going back to jail? So souls in the negative astral realms that you would call hell, no one is forcing them to be there. God does not cast anyone into hell. Simply, and there are hells, they are choosing to be there in the same way that people continually choose to be to prison, to imprison themselves, or to use drugs which addict them and enslave them here. So those same choices, not resolved within the physical incarnation, will be resolved in the astral. Again, as a grace, it has to be resolved or one couldn't move on. So one will be put into a situation that's like a pressure cooker, like but they are choosing this. Like, they, just like a drug addict chooses to go to a bad neighborhood to live in the way they are, to put the needle back in their arm over and over. Now, from their perception, they may have no choice at all because they've already given so much of their power away. Okay, so that's the same way people choose to go to, inhabit, and actually create these negative astral planes. They're created through interactions with humans. At one time, it was just a vibrational strata of the fourth dimension, unpopulated by human things and ideas and vibrations and emotions and visions and creations. That we created it. Humans created it through all the suffering and war and all the things people couldn't let go of, and all the addictions and lust and desires and compulsions, and all that stuff is mentally being created into the fourth, and then it manifests out here into the third, and back and forth and back and forth. They interact with each other, because remember, when you go to sleep at night and you dream, you're going to the same place that you go when you die. Maybe not the exact same realm or strata, but you're going to the fourth dimension, So the only difference is, and it depends what time of night, like, and what type of dream you're having. There are times where you're fully there, where you go home, you check in with your soul and your higher self and your team in the higher dimension, the ones who chose to come here. You literally go to the same place that you will go when you die. You go to the same exact place. But in the more general dreams that one remembers and that don't make much sense. Now, first of all, you're not remembering it clearly the way it was happening then. So it's not going to make full sense because of the way the fourth dimension works, operates, the mechanics and physics of it can't be fully translated into the third. So, like, it just doesn't make sense that you can walk out of your room here and end up in New Mexico in the fourth dimension, and I'm in outside of Philadelphia. So that doesn't make sense for me to be able to walk out the house and be in another state. But in the fourth, it does make sense, So, but the other thing to keep in mind is when you're in a more normal dream, you're not fully in the fourth. You're going to the same place. You're going to the same place you do when you die, but you're not fully there. And there are many sub-realms because of that. There are dream realms, if you will. A fourth dimensional being wanting to see this and access this of the right proper level would be able to go and see people in the dream realm there, and perhaps they communicate with people that way, because it's the same place, just a slightly different vibration, but it's more populated by those half in and out, because it's like you're sleepwalking, it's like you're dreaming, you're forming your own little thing, you're not interacting with the normal fourth dimensional civilizations and kingdoms that actually populate the fourth on a more continual basis while you're in the third, because part of your consciousness is still held in the third dimensional body. So as I said before, the fourth dimensional body is right above this one. It just extends out a little bit more, so you're just a little bit bigger in the fourth, although it doesn't seem that way because everybody else and everything else is also proportional. So you just seem like yourself there, except much healthier, more vibrant, more intelligent, more creative, without fear. You know, you're just a different, better version of yourself. It's the real you, you know, if you want. And so most of the astral realms are actually beautiful, radiant, vibrant places, the vast majority of it. But a human who is through mediumship or channeling or in the dream state or through coming to a vortex where they're interacting with the fourth, who has all the third dimensional baggage and ideas of the incarnation playing out, will be more attracted to realms like that with similar vibrations and beings and other entities which prey and maneuver in those realms. So the lower your vibration is, the more that your astral body, whether you're there asleep in a dream, or whether you're in between lives, or whether you're even awake and your astral body is still there, it's just hovering above you asleep. Like I said, I meant to say that before. So when you're awake, your fourth dimensional self is just asleep, basically, floating right above you. And when you go to sleep here, your fourth dimensional self wakes up. But it's not the same as when you die third dimensionally. This one gets completely shut off. It actually gets pulled back up. The energy gets pulled back up, and you don't have it grabbing you anymore. And then you're your fourth dimensional self, except any karma that is being held in the fourth dimensional ego from past lives and this life, that will affect the formation and vibration of it there, you know, which would keep it from ascending into the fifth, sixth, seventh, and beyond until it's ready. But again, regardless of what I was saying before, is so when you are accessing the fourth dimension with the third dimensional baggage and trauma and fear and dishonesties playing out, you're more likely to come into the lower dimensional strata. And I'm not necessarily talking about the hell realms there, because only a certain group of individual are going to be hitting there, you know, the very bottom of the vibrational category. But for the average person, they're going to tie in more to like the ones you would call the purgatory kind of realms, you know, where anything goes. You know, it's kind of like Earth, but wilder and weirder. That's it. But it's not necessarily a bad place, just like Earth isn't. But I mean, if you compare it to the higher realms and the true state of things in the universe and creation, then yeah, Earth is a pretty dark, disturbing place. But it, you know, it's still beautiful, and sometimes radically beautiful, and because of the contrast between the ugliness that can be here, you know. But in the higher dimensions, it's all beautiful, and like I say, and the majority of the fourth is very beautiful. It's very exciting. You would actually choose to be there over this, so there's nothing to fear. I mean, literally, this is why when between deaths you may spend 300, 400 years, you know, as far as time doesn't really mean the same thing there. It's just experientially, you could say it would feel like this. Several lives played out before you choose another physical incarnation, you know, of time anyways. So I hope that helps alleviate anyone's fear of the paranormal, because again, most of these things are beautiful and angelic and light. Yes, there are some dark things within the lower dimensions, meaning the fourth and under, and that's the only place they exist. And that's by our choice to play with them. It's by our choice to create them. So there's nothing for us to fear. These are things for us to learn from and master and move on.